friends, it's Birdie, your favorite functional fitness coach, and I put together this video today to kind of go over carbohydrates and suss out some of that good versus bad, or like what you should do or shouldn't do with them. And before I get started into that, I do want to have this caveat of listen to your body first. Always listen to your body. Always trust yourself. One person's journey is going to look a lot different than another person's journey, and one person's health needs and food needs and nutrition needs and movement needs are going to look totally different than another person's. And just because it works amazing for one person does not mean that it is right for you. So always listen to your body and trust it. Really trust the process. So carbohydrates. What is this big deal with carbs, right? Everyone's been low carb, paleo, Atkins, keto, versus like there's still high carb people out there who are like, I'm going to only eat high carbohydrates, I'm going to cut out the fat, or whatever version of it that they want. But like, which one is right? Which one's going to be the healthiest for you, and or which one is the healthiest for our body? And so what I'm going to do, because once again, everyone is different and everyone's going to respond differently. So listen to yourself, but I'm going to kind of just go over carbs in general and how they respond in our body, and simple things that tools that you can use that are going to help you regardless of your end overall arching kind of goals and health and that individual aspect of it. So when I'm talking about carbohydrates, they kind of get this like bad reputation, right? Because it's this double-edged sword. So on one hand, they are your number one fuel source of energy. And on the other hand, the body also, based on the majority of the carbs out there, let me just throw it out there, based on the abundance and the majority of the carbs that you find out there, our body is not designed to ingest so many carbohydrates. We weren't created in a way that was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have carbs all the time with every meal and the types of carbs that they are. So it's this double-edged sword of like, this is our fuel source, but we are getting way too much fuel, right? And so when our bodies are basically ingesting and getting all of these carbs, especially when they're from refined sugars, that are in foods like our crackers and croissants and baked goods and whatnot, and even hidden in our breads and our pastas and stuff like that. Basically anything that's baked with flour, it handles them by releasing insulin, and the insulin response in your body is basically it's important for a lot of functions, but by design, it is like a storage hormone, right? And so what it's going to do is, instead of our body's natural kind of response of like, okay, I'm ingesting calories, I'm ingesting food, let's burn fat because I'm getting this nice balance, because our body likes to be in balance, right? Balance now, and I know I have this fuel source. Our body's like, no, something else is going on. We need to store this. We need to store the fat, store it good, tuck it away, save it for later, as kind of like a response to these highly refined and high kind of like sugar-esque foods. And once again, when I say sugar-esque, it's not sugar like you're necessarily having like sugar in it, but there's just the refining process. It has such a fast transition in our body that our body kind of freaks out by it. So anyways, our body's actually getting the signal to store the fat instead of burn it whenever we're eating a lot of these starchy carbs. So that's why a lot of these diets are out there, because you're going to see a big dent in your weight loss if you begin to really limit starchy carbs with every meal. And once again, it might not be the right route for you, but this is one of the reasons why the diets work, and why the diets tend to get good results. But then once again, it's also this like longevity thing, right? You don't want to put your body through something that you're not going to be able to stick with consistently, because otherwise you're going to yo-yo, and that's going to put a lot of stress and can actually cause more harm than it is good. And once again, it's all about feeling better, right? So let's talk about the different type of carbs and where carbs are found. So you have two different categories. You have your fibrous carbs and you have your starchy carbs. And the I was talking earlier about the starchy carbs and how they're super refined and whatnot. So your fibrous carbs, that fiber in the carbs is what helps you not have that insulin response, because it's nice, slowly digestible, it's slowly breaking it down so that you're not all of a sudden getting the spike in glucose in your body. And those fibrous carbs are going to be raw, lightly cooked vegetables, beans and legumes, and some fruits, but mostly berries. And then also like sweet potatoes and quinoa fall into that category. Starchy carbs that work against this kind of fat loss that we were talking about, in our bodies trigger over to staying in that fat loss zone, or burning that fat, or being allowed to, I guess is a good way to put it, is candies, jellies, jams, refined pastas, white rice, puddings, custards, other sweets, sodas, fruit juices, because they have all of the fiber taken out of them, fruit drinks, cakes, cookies, and other like baked goods like croissants, and basically anything made with refined grains or refined flour. So even like pastas and stuff like that, and breads. So the whole way to approach carbs is by finding a balance, right? And it's always about finding this balance that works for you, that makes you feel your best. So the first rule of thumb before we even go into this, how do you find your balance, is to not approach carbohydrates as I'm eliminating or I'm restricting, because our brains tend to resist restriction. So we will want to add those foods into our diets if we're constantly thinking like, I can't have them, because your brain's like, I want them. So a great way of doing it is being like, okay, let's find our balance. And a great way of finding your balance is to crowd out foods that aren't serving your goals, right? So by adding in more of those fibrous, carb-rich foods like the vegetables and the beans and legumes and whatnot, it leaves less space for those cookies and refined carbs, the pastas and stuff like that. In addition to finding that balance is also knowing that it's not a all or none thing. Like the balance comes with how much you are consuming within a week too. So it's a balance within a day, a balance within a meal, balance within a week, a balance even within a month. And just realizing, okay, well, I want to go to happy hour this day. So maybe on this day, in order to balance out and still feel my best post happy hour, the day after happy hour, I will up my intake of my, fibrous, carb-rich foods, maybe go really low carb one day or whatnot, so that I can have my, French fries and chips or whatever, so you're not worried about what you're having at happy hour. You can enjoy yourself and still feel good, because that's the end game, right? Feeling our best. And lastly, I just want you to, once again, I'm going to hone in on this all the time, because this is something that's so important, is you need to listen to your body, because one person's amount of carbohydrates that they can intake and still feel good, and I'm talking starchy carbohydrates, is not going to necessarily be the same as you. And so it's really important to listen to your body cues, and it's not just going to be indigestion. It's not just going to be gas. It's not just going to be bloating. Signals and signs that your body is not really happy with what's going on is headache, lethargy, energy, not sleeping well, body aches, even arthritic kind of feelings can be it, as well as like mood swings and stuff, because that's a sign of maybe your gut's not that happy, your hormones are getting imbalanced and whatnot. So just think of it as listening to your body, finding your own balance, not ever having it be a restriction, just being an awareness, and thinking of it as kind of learning about yourself, and finding a place of empowerment of like, I get to make choices now, and I can control the outcome. I know what the outcome's going to be, and so I'm going to make the choices based on that. And it's just such a great place to be, and a really amazing feeling to have that connection with your body and kind of like supporting each other on that journey. Anyways, my friends, that is it on carbs for today. I hope you enjoyed all this information, and I'm looking forward to sharing more in the future.